Hi friends, happy Monday. So excited. Another day of the school week. This week will also be a little different, and we'll get into that later. I'm sure we're going to send out an email, your parents will explain. But for today, what we're going to do is really examine the little house, and we're going to especially notice what changes Little House went through, okay? But before we get into that, let's start our sight word. Here we go. O, F, of. Echo. O, F, of. Great. So now what we're going to do is see that in a sentence. Here we go. Heaven asked for a piece of candy. How do we end sentences? Period. Of. There's our sight word, our new one today. Heaven asked for a piece of candy. Chase is a friend of Aries. Chase is a friend of Aries. How do we end sentences? Period again. And there's our sight word of. Is this part of the puzzle? Look at the way Miss G's sound went up when she read this sentence. Is this part of the puzzle? What should I put at the end? Since it's a question mark. Good. And do you see the sight word in this sentence? Bam. Of. Very nice, friends. All right, so now what we're going to do, Miss G thought it'd be better maybe if we looked at our video this time instead of Miss G reading it to you. I know the other one has sound effects and stuff that were fun. So I'm going to show you the video, pause it, and then we'll go through it, okay? So now, let's go to, that was Miss G's little tracker to make sure all friends are being shouted out. Here we go.
Once upon a time, there was a little house way out in the country.
And just to remind my friends, we're seeing what changed. So you're going to tell me what happened and what changed, okay? What changed around her, the settings of the little house.
She was a pretty little house, and she was strong and well built. The man who built her so well said, "This little house shall never be sold for gold or silver, and she will live to see our great-great-grandchildren's great-great-grandchildren living in her." The little house was very happy as she sat on the hill and watched the countryside around her. She watched the sun rise in the morning, and she watched the sun set in the evening. Day followed day, each one a little different from the one before. But the little house stayed just the same. In the nights she watched the moon grow from a thin new moon to a full moon, then back again to a thin old moon. And when there was no moon, she watched the stars. Way off in the distance she could see the lights of the city. The little house was curious about the city and wondered what it would be like to live there.
So was the city close to the little house? No, right? Because the city, she said, was far off in the distance. So that means it's not close. It means it's far. What are some things you're noticing in the setting right now? There's a house. Is there grass? Yes. Is there trees? Yes, right? If there's like maybe kids, let's see. Let's see.
Time passed quickly for the little house as she watched the countryside slowly change with the seasons. In the spring, when the days grew longer and the sun warmer, she waited for the first robin to return from the south. She watched the grass turn green. She watched the buds on the trees swell and the apple trees burst into blossom. She watched the children playing in the brook. In the long summer days, she sat in the sun and watched the trees cover themselves with leaves and the white daisies cover the hill. She watched the gardens grow, and she watched the apples turn red and ripen. She watched the children swimming in the pool. In the fall, when the days grew shorter and the nights colder, she watched the first frost turn the leaves to bright yellow and orange and red. She watched the harvest gathered and the apples picked. She watched the children going back to school. In the winter, when the nights were long and the days short, and the countryside covered with snow, she watched the children coasting and skating. Year followed year. The apple trees grew old, and the new ones were planted. The children grew up and went away to the city, and now at night the lights of the city seemed brighter and closer. One day, the little house was surprised to see a horseless carriage coming down the winding country road.
So friends, what is a horseless carriage? They use a different type of word for it, but what do you see in the illustration? It is a car. It's a car. A horseless carriage is a car because in the past they used to use carriages with horses on them, but now we use cars.
Pretty soon there were more of them on the road and fewer carriages pulled by horses. Pretty soon along came some surveyors and surveyed a line in front of the little house. Pretty soon along came a steam shovel and dug a road through the hill covered with daisies. Then some trucks came and dumped big stones on the road. Then some trucks with little stones. Then some trucks with tar and sand. And finally a steamroller came and rolled it all smooth, and the road was done. Now the little house watched the trucks and automobiles going back and forth to the city. Gasoline stations, roadside stands, and small houses followed the new road. Everyone and everything moved much faster now than before.
So my friends, you saw that she had a bunch of little houses next to her. I'll go back to this one. A lot of little houses next to her. What are some other things you noticed changed? They said it in the words, but they also show it in the pictures. What did they say that was? Or what does it kind of look like? If you look really close, it's hard to see, but that was a gas station. And then, you can see in that picture, then what are these? Houses. Is there more than one? Yes. So we go back to our chart. Miss G made a chart so that we can remember the different things that the little house sees. So she saw grass, trees, farm, sun, the country, and changing seasons, right? That's all the things she had in the beginning. Now she's seeing cars and trucks, a road, gas stations, and even more houses. So this is a real life car that they used to drive back in those days. And we have a picture of it. And then you can see the more houses. So let's go back to the story and see what else has changed.
And small houses followed the new road. Everyone and everything moved much faster now than before. More roads were made, and the countryside was divided into lots. More houses and bigger houses, apartment houses and tenement houses, schools, stores, and garages spread over the land and crowded around the little house. No one wanted to live in her and take care of her anymore. She couldn't be sold for gold or silver, so she just stayed there and watched. Now, it was not so quiet and peaceful at night. Now the lights of the city were bright and very close, and the street lights shone all night. This must be living in the city, thought the little house, and didn't know whether she liked it or not. She missed the fields of daisies and the apple trees dancing in the moonlight.
So she had the apartments, right? She saw the apartments getting built. What else did she see? I have the little chart here, and while you're saying some answers. So she saw cars and trucks, a road, and gas stations. And then that turned into more roads, more houses, those apartment buildings, bigger houses, apartments, schools, and stores. So all these things changed around her, right? This is when she's not noticing if she likes it or not, the city. And let's see what changes next.
Pretty soon there were trolley cars going back and forth in front of the little house. They went back and forth all day and part of the night. Everyone seemed to be very busy, and everyone seemed to be in a hurry. Pretty soon there was an elevated train going back and forth above the little house. The air was filled with dust and smoke, and the noise was so loud that it shook the little house. Now she couldn't tell when spring came, or summer, or fall, or winter. It all seemed about the same.
This is a Brooklyn bound 2 express train. The next stop is
Pretty soon.
So before we get into this part, I want you guys to go back and think about what was happening to the little house here. What is she noticing? While you guys are answering, let's go back to our chart and check it out. So we were on this part. She was seeing apartments, right? But then it moved on and she saw trolley cars. She saw more people. She saw elevated trains, and she saw a smoky sky. And Miss G just stopped it, but we're about to see, oh, this is the elevated train. This is a trolley car. So it's kind of like a train. It goes a little slower and it's on the street. So a train will actually, have its own tracks. That's the difference between a trolley car and a train. So these are the things the little house saw, the changes she saw. Let's see what else.
The little house. Now she couldn't tell when spring came, or summer, or fall, or winter.
This is a Brooklyn bound 2 express train. The next stop is
Pretty soon there was a subway going back and forth underneath the little house. She couldn't see it, but she could feel and hear it. People were moving faster and faster. No one noticed the little house anymore. They hurried by without a glance. Pretty soon they tore down the apartment houses and tenement houses around the little house and started digging big cellars, one on each side. The steam shovels dug down 3 stories on one side and 4 stories on the other side. Pretty soon they started building up. They built up 25 stories on one side and 35 stories on the other. Now, the little house only saw the sun at noon and didn't see the moon or stars at night at all because the lights of the city were too bright. She didn't like living in the city. At night she used to dream of the country and the field of daisies and the apple trees dancing in the moonlight. The little house was very sad and lonely. Her paint was cracked and dirty, her windows were broken, and her shutters hung crookedly. She looked shabby, though she was just as good a house as ever underneath.
So my friends, a few more changes happened. So let's go back and see. What happened on this part, right? What happened with this part? What happened here? What do you notice here? So you're probably calling out wonderful answers. Miss G has it here as well. So they went from trolley cars and more people and the elevated trains and a smoky sky And then the apartments were torn down and steam shovels were digging and a big skyscraper came up, right? 23 floors on one side, 30 something floors on the other. So now she has these kind of buildings. These are called skyscrapers. Can you echo, Miss G? Skyscraper. Good. So this type of building is now surrounding her. Now towards the end, I want you to notice what has changed from here, the skyscrapers, to the very end. Okay?
See it, but she could feel and hear it. People were moving faster and faster. No one noticed the
Fast forward a little. Okay.
though she was just as good a house as ever underneath. Then one fine morning in spring, along came the great-great-granddaughter of the man who built the little house so well. She saw the shabby little house, but she didn't hurry by. There was something about the little house that made her stop and look again. She said to her husband, "That little house looks just like the little house my grandmother lived in when she was a little girl. Only that little house was way out in the country on a hill covered with daisies and apple trees growing around." They found out it was the very same house, so they went to the movers to see if the little house could be moved. The movers looked the little house all over and said, "Sure, this house is as good as ever. She's built so well we can move her anywhere." So they jacked up the little house and put her on wheels.
So Miss G's gonna just fast forward a little so you guys can notice the end. And I want you looking at what's around her now, okay? There's some sun, there's some grass, there's some trees. So she gets moved, right, from the city to a nice hilltop that has a space just for her next to apple trees. And she gets to see the sun again and the moon again and stars again, right? So that was at the end of our book. That's the change she sees. It goes from apartments back to grass and trees, sun and moon, changing seasons, and the country. All right, friends, I know that was kind of a long lesson, so what we're going to do is end it here. Tomorrow we'll do shout outs. I love you guys. I miss you guys. Have a great day.